Hello and welcome everyone. This is Lakshmi Senapati on behalf of VT Seva, welcoming you all to the first ever National Women Empowerment Workshop 2022. Although it's the first of its kind, at VT Seva, women empowerment has always been a priority. As you can tell, with the team composition of women leaders among Jet and VT Seva, Volunteering Together for Service, is a volunteer-driven non-profit organization registered in 2008. Its sister organization, Vikasa Tarangini, established in 1992, has rendered human service with more than 150,000 volunteers across the globe. It is also active in England, Australia, and Tanzania. Our VT Seva CEO, His Holiness Sri Chinnajiyar Swamiji, is a staunch believer that if a woman suffers, the entire family fails and cannot work peacefully. Society struggles. If a woman is healthy, the entire family stays productive and happy. Society flourishes. Our organization always has a special place for women's health. To contribute to a happy society, we at VT Seva believe and focus on healthcare and education pillars, and we were able to accomplish a lot of progress in the past 10 years, serving hundreds and thousands of women. More than 1 million women have received awareness and screening for early detection of cancer. As you can see on the screen, the numbers speak about the impact we were able to make on the society with the support of our wonderful volunteers and donors. Moving on through our education pillar, next slide please, more than 15,000 families have been impacted by the wonderful service that was provided by providing education and free boarding and lodging for visually blind students, visually challenged students, as well as tribal students. As you can see on the screen, Lalita, she has silver medal and bronze medal at the recent 3rd Indian Open National Para Athletics Championship in 2021 conducted in Bangalore. And Bangaru, one of the students at visually challenged schools, she has been chosen as a playback singer. These are just a couple of examples of what our students accomplished, but overall in academics and in overall activities, extracurricular activities, our students always won wonderful positions and accomplished great results. All this would not have been possible without the support of wonderful volunteers who are serving at the schools and health camps, taking the care to doorsteps. Sometimes we will have to go to the homes of the people who may not be willing to take cancer pre-screening, and they fear when we say the cancer word or healthcare word. So we have to go and convince them to attend one of these workshops that are being presented for free at all these remote villages of India. Still, we do it. And they are certainly our superheroes who are doing all this wonderful, great work at the ground. Now, without further ado, let's get into the topic for today. What does empowerment mean to you? Please take a minute to think about what empowerment really means to you. We all have different perspectives for the word. However, we know that there's a lot of disparity to surpass, for which we need each other. To share a couple of observations, when comparing the salary between men and women, a 2021 report shows that women earn 82 cents for every dollar men make. That is an 80% gap, which has not changed much since 2010. Coincidentally, Gender equality today for a sustainable tomorrow is also the theme of 2022 International Women's Day. 56% of women married to men leave financial planning and investment decisions to their husbands. And I can say I'm guilty as charged, I'm one of them. Women make up 47% support staff and 29% senior management. Only 2.6% of global Fortune 500 companies have women as CEOs. If we are to advocate for women equality, rights, and empowerment, we must create consciousness around the mechanisms that promote and protect women's mental and physical health. Keeping all of these observations and motivation and to motivate each other, we have lined up topics: physical, mental, and financial well-being and women at workforce in our two-day workshop starting today. With that, I would like to welcome Dr. Aparna Tamirisa, an internal medicine specialist in Sugar Land, Texas. Aparna ji, here you
go. Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to day one of the two-day Women's Empowerment Workshop. I look forward to these next 2 days as a time for all of us to gain insights, introspect, and grow. Today, we will be focusing on physical and emotional wellness. I will be your facilitator as we delve into important concepts in health. I hold today's discussion close to my heart because, number one, I am a woman. And as Maya Angelou once said, it would be foolish not to be on my own side. Number two, studies have brought to light that it is women who help their families adjust to new realities and change and maintain stability during times of strife, whether related to personal, family, political, or economical strain. We are natural caretakers. With that in mind, I am sure you have all heard the quote, "You can't pour from an empty cup." Today, we will address the factors that we have to recognize and work on to keep that cup full and flowing. For today's talks, we ask that you remain on mute during the presentations to optimize audio quality. We will have questions and answers at the end of each session today. We encourage you as active participants to enter your questions in the chat box during the session so that we may address them at the end. This will allow for some great discussion on topics that I'm sure are close to your heart. We start today's session with a discussion on emotional wellness by Dr. Preethi Prakash Mathur. Dr. Mathur is a native of Mumbai, Maharashtra, India, and completed her medical school there. She completed her residency in psychiatry at the Westchester Medical Center in New York and has been a practicing psychiatrist for more than 15 years. She has worked in the hospital setting and is currently in outpatient psychiatric practice in San Diego, California. She has conducted several talks in her field, benefiting communities and truly creating an impact. Please join me in welcoming Dr. Mathur.
Thank you, everyone, and thanks for having me part of this. It's really exciting to be sharing a lot of this stuff with you. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen and start a slideshow. So just give me a moment. Okay. Sorry, I'm trying to get to the icon of share screen.
Dr. Mathur, your screen is now being shared.
Yes.
If you needed to put it in the display mode on the bottom right, there's an icon to enlarge the screen or to open up the PowerPoint into presentation mode. Bottom right hand, that's right.
Right there?
That should be the one.
Okay. And how do I can see all of you on the Zoom, so should I exit from there or how do we?
So, Dr. Mathur, if you can please go back to the previous, where you were earlier at the right side bottom corner.
Uh-huh.
And just go a little bit left. let that, I mean, the toolbar has to go down, yeah. So this, can you see the monitor projector kind of, right, yeah, right before the volume button, right before the volume button, yeah, that one.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, click on that.
Okay, got it. And then, and the,
Yeah,
I
you
don't
just click next. Yeah, you just click next whenever you want to.
okay, so, all right, okay, let's go ahead with, and it's okay, your, the Zoom is coming on the right. How do I,
Yeah, it's all good. It's all good.
it's all good, okay.
Yeah.
We are all able to see it. Thank you, Preethi.
Oh, thank you very much. So let's start with the first slide. What is anxiety, panic, OCD, PTSD? I know there's a loaded terms, but a lot of women suffer from anxiety. So what is anxiety? So it is basically a excessive fear or worry or apprehension. They may think that something bad is going to happen in the future, keep on thinking about it as a ruminative thought process and can't let it go. So it's an excessive worry, more than usual, can't let it go, thinking something bad is going to happen, not able to stop it. So that, becomes, that's a generalized anxiety, we call it. And then, of course, it affects the body, the mind-body connection, feeling restless, not able to concentrate, mind going blank. Someone can feel irritable and have muscle tension. The muscles can tense up and be hurtful. Pain, physical symptoms like a headache, body aches, nausea, vomiting, sleep disturbance, GI symptoms, diarrhea can happen, which is the panic part of it, the physical symptoms of anxiety. So the kind of anxiety, we break it down into generalized, which I just said, the way you think. Panic is the physical part of it. The OCD, obsessive compulsive disorder, is when someone has urge to keep doing, repeating certain things in a certain order and can't let it go. They feel more anxious if they're not able to do those behaviors. So, and that's important to recognize. And when you get more anxious, the OCD symptoms can increase. Talking about a different topic, post-traumatic stress disorder. And this is about a traumatic event that happened somewhere in the past, and that comes back as dreams, nightmares, or flashbacks to the person. And they are reliving in the present. And social anxiety, of course, feeling anxious more in social settings. So let's understand panic disorder when someone has recurrent, panic attacks. And they could have palpitations, shortness of breath, chest tightness, nausea, dizziness, sweating, trembling, feelings of choking. They feel like it's almost like a heart attack or they're going to die. So it's a feeling which can mimic a heart attack. When in doubt, of course, definitely go to an urgent care and get checked out and make sure it's not a heart attack. And if that happens in anxiety setting, when the lady is feeling anxious, definitely then it's nice to identify this is a panic disorder. And then once you know what it is, then you can find a solution to that. Along with it, with the GI symptoms, the nausea, abdominal distress, diarrhea, paresthesia, feeling numb or tingling sensations, having some pseudoneurological symptoms. There could derealization and depersonalization. So that person could be losing track of what's going on, be really disoriented, fear of losing control, fear of dying, and of course, the persistent fear of getting a further future panic attack. And in the fear of future panic attack, then the person gets more and more anxious. So going on to the next slide, completely different. So depression. What is depression? We all can feel sad sometimes, depending on what's happening, the situations. But it becomes a depressive episode when someone is depressed most of the day, nearly every day. There is a diminished interest or pleasure in things, the anhedonia we call it, almost in all activities, most of the day, nearly every day. There could be a lack of appetite leading to weight loss or increased appetite leading to weight gain. Sleep can be affected. Most of the time it's insomnia, having problems sleeping, but also in some people, they could sleep more. They are very tired. The next thing is psychomotor retardation, that is feeling very tired most of the day, nearly every day, despite getting their sleep. It could be opposite if someone's on the edge and having, an opposite reaction. There is a loss of energy, feeling tired. There was a word called laden paralysis, where, the person could feel like they don't want to get up and they are feeling just very heavy. And that is an indication of severe loss of energy and along with that, with the depression, it can go with that. The person feels hopeless, helpless, worthless. There's excessive guilt, diminished ability to, I'm sorry, that's what I chose. Yeah, diminished ability to concentrate or think. There is indecisiveness nearly every day. And there are recurrent thoughts of could be death, of suicidal thoughts, having a plan, thinking about different things, almost dreaming about it and rehearsing in their minds. It reaches a dangerous level, can. And of course, having a history of suicide attempts in the past or planning becomes a dangerous thing. So it's very important to control depression early on and take care of it and go for treatment for therapy and with therapy and medications, and not let it go on to a severe form where someone is having suicidal thoughts and may be at a risk of killing themselves or someone else. Coming to a different topic, emotional impact of COVID-19 and other distressing world events. So we all have lived in this very difficult time for the past 2 years, felt isolated, lonely. We had to isolate for, making sure if someone is infected or potentially they cannot, you should not be infecting others. So they ended up feeling more lonely. I've spoken to many of my patients who had COVID and were in isolation. It was very helpful to do therapy and talk to them and help them through, because even in their own homes, they could not be going out of their rooms. They were feeling helpless, hopeless. Lack of social interaction made people more depressed and anxious. And sometimes when family was in close quarters, there were more difficult family dynamics and interactions with each other, especially if they were not getting along. People were getting worse, including having depression, anxiety, but also irritability and anger, and having a very difficult interaction and relationship with others. And this was really hard for a lot of people. Of course, the world events, including COVID, can make someone feel more anxious, depressed, having panic attacks, increased OCD because of the increased anxiety and the trouble sleeping. There was a fear of getting the disease, personally being affected, or the long-term consequences of self and on the society. There was an uncertainty about the future for oneself, the family, and the world in general. So this was a very difficult time for most of us. And of course, the fear of another pandemic, another distressing world events, especially the political events that are happening lately and all that. So people are getting more anxious and stressed, having panic attacks, having trouble sleeping. And my advice to them, when they are overreading the news, doing a lot of research and overwhelming themselves with doing it all day, every day, most of the day, consuming themselves with it, I advise, please take a break. Know the news, it's good to be aware, but not to the point where it's becoming a dysfunction, you're overwhelming yourself. So taking a break and focusing on self-care and caring for your family is really important to balance that out, not to overdo this catching up on the news and social media. Women on multitasking, they do multitasking and they have to balance a lot of dynamics in there. So let's talk about that. A lot of women are working, or they may be homemakers, taking care of their family and children, maintaining a household, balancing responsibilities with a career or education going on the side, helping children with their education and futures. But often there is a lack of appreciation for that from their near and dear ones. Sometimes there is, which is great. A lot of positive environment plays a very nice role in everyone's well-being. However, there are situations and circumstances where the woman is not appreciated. And it's really it's important for that woman to appreciate herself, acknowledge and understand the importance of their contributions to themselves and their family and everybody they're helping out around them. They need to validate themselves, acknowledge their accomplishments and to themselves, and only then they can be, emotionally healthy to engage in the purpose and fulfill their duties and help themselves. So my analogy often is like, say, put on your oxygen mask first, and then you can put it on others and take care of others. You can't do it the other way around. So practicing self-care, including pursuing your passions, your hobbies, staying in touch with your friends, surrounding yourself with positivity and seeking that. It may not be at home, but it could be outside of that in a bigger society, and engaging in activities that can be passionate to them can really help. coming to a different topic, recognizing abuse. What is abuse? What are the warning signs? There are different kinds of abuse: emotional, verbal, physical, sexual, financial, neglect, and abandonment. And emotional, it starts with usual and emotional abuse, but most people cannot recognize that that's what's happening to them. The abuser believes that they're entitled to their wants. Despite the harm it will cause others, they don't care about anyone else besides themselves. So they're enjoying using others as a pawn and abusing. Emotional abuse and its escalation. So deliberately it causes, someone's causing pain through intimidation, coercion, ridiculing, harassment, isolating the lady from their family and friends. And then they're free to do whatever once they isolate. So this is really important to recognize. Then don't let yourself get isolated, and do stay in contact with your family and friends and with society. Because when you are alone to be harassed, that's when the abuser can be yelling, swearing, shouting, controlling. And the emotional abuse can lead to an escalation of physical abuse, sexual abuse, financial, controlling the finances, neglecting, not even helping the person out when they are needed, and of course, not caring and abandoning. And that can severely affect the woman's self-esteem, confidence, causing depression, anxiety, feels dependent on the abuser, traumatic bonding, doesn't feel she can walk out of that. And this is really important to acknowledge and understand. So to be proactive in not getting to that point, to be self-sufficient emotionally, financially, and also physically. So it's really important for the woman to be empowered, to acknowledge to herself, no matter what the abuser is telling her, that she is good and she can stand up for herself and she's doing fine. She will do fine even if she has to walk out. So she may consider leaving the relationship. That may seem impossible. That's really important to explore if it's really bad, to get yourself out of the situation early on and not let it escalate to severe conditions. What is the solution? First step starts with identifying the red flags. Stand up, speak up for yourself. Do not feel dependent. It's a difficult process, but it's important to be aware. Be confident and financially independent. And even for homemakers, and there is a talk later on, but they have to be financially be able to take care of themselves and have a plan of if they have to walk out, what would they do? How would they survive? Whom would they call? And who is that nearest person they will contact? A famous quote: when someone shows you who they are, believe them. It's hard to believe that sometimes the woman may feel husband is very good, overall he's a good person, but only sometimes he's abusive. But once abusive, especially we're talking the escalation from verbal to physical abuse, it may happen again. And it's important to put a stop to that right away, for the lady to stand up and say, this is not acceptable, that I will not accept physical abuse at all. If we need to discuss something, that's important, but you cannot yell and shout at me. So she got to take steps to clear the boundaries, to make it clear what's acceptable, what's not early on, because the cycle of abuse comes back again right after he has made up with like some flowers or chocolates and say I love you and give jewelry and whatnot and reassure that everything's okay, it's all going to be fine. But yet unexpectedly here it comes again and again, and therefore the victim, most in this case the lady, may be in a relationship, continue to be in, because also there is a fear of what will society think. How can I divorce? How can I even think about it? And it's important to early on stand up and try to fix it. And of course I recommend therapy, individual as well as couples if need be, so that both the husband and wife can learn how to communicate and how to resolve issues early on and not let it escalate. And it's important to recognize what boundaries are transgressed and subsequently make sure to enforce them. Self-esteem and confidence flows right in. Self-esteem refers to how people can value and appreciate themselves. And that's important. We should start that with ourselves, and only then others can appreciate us. And that can change throughout life. You may be a confident person, but a difficult experience like marital problems or career issues or a divorce or loss of spouse can start affecting that self-esteem and confidence. That person is no longer feeling that way. And that need not be the case. So it's really important to identify low self-esteem and confidence subsequently by instilling yourself with positive, reassuring thoughts, reassuring talk to yourself, believe in yourself, give importance to, don't give importance to someone who's making you feel bad about yourself. It's really important to stand up in your mind for yourself and say, no, I know who I am. I know I'm good. I'm empowered and I can do whatever I want and I don't need to be told. And also I don't need to be told otherwise, because typically the abuser is, or someone else, or people around them who are negative may be trying to put them down. So be yourself as an independent and autonomous being who is shaping the narrative in the direction you want at their own terms and for herself and for her family and the children as well. Hormones and stages of life. So hormone fluctuations across the lifespan can affect the woman in her mood, and that can cause depression and anxiety. And we see that and the stages of life and the effect on self-esteem and confidence and independence at different stages is different. So childhood, we all remember, it's different from adolescent, where you are in conflict with, in a middle place between childhood and adulthood. As an adult, you develop your personality. However, depending on what's happening, the self-esteem, confidence can be affected. So PMS, premenstrual syndrome, premenstrual time, women tend to feel more depressed, anxious, and irritable and on the edge. And that's important to recognize. It can happen mildly in some women and more in some, and to be able to understand and take care of themselves. I would say avoid caffeine that time and focus on self-care, drink a lot of water, healthy diet, exercise, stay calm, and many other stages of life can affect, and postpartum time is a susceptible one for the women to tend to have depression. Very important to catch it early on for the sake of the women, her child, and the family. Perimenopausal, a lot of women go through a lot of hormonal changes affecting their emotional well-being. And again, they may have, because of the hormonal fluctuations, depression, anxiety, irritability, hot flashes, feeling more irritable, having a lack of confidence in themselves. Of course, the elderly is a whole different aspect of a woman may feel helpless and be dependent on others. And that's important to, again, at every stage of life, be empowered and not be dependent on others and keep pumping yourself with self-confidence. How do we take care of ourselves? It's really important to take care of ourselves. The one thing I would mention before going on to this slide is anxiety is very common. And something that increases anxiety is caffeine. So avoiding caffeine will keep that anxiety down, the panic, OCD, PTSD, sleep problems away. Decaf is okay. Also, please stay away from alcohol and marijuana and substances, because alcohol, marijuana, and a lot of other drugs are depressants. They increase depression, cause it, and there are some that will make someone like have lack of sleep. So stay away from what people think is relaxing. Could be alcohol and marijuana, which is legal nowadays, but not good for mental health at all, and including cognitive and memory problems can come through that. So deep breathing and relaxation techniques are also very helpful for anxiety and helping sleep. Exercise, yoga, meditation, very helpful. Balancing life, having a structured, good sleep-wake schedule, really important. And the term sleep hygiene, if you look it up on the internet as a search word, it will bring up a lot of things. It's very helpful. So one is avoiding caffeine, of course, alcohol and other substances. So I say sleep on time, wake up on time, have a regular schedule, at least Monday to Friday. And 1 hour before you want to sleep, get into a relaxed wind down mode, which means avoid emails, avoid anything work related or something. Don't avoid thinking about something that's stressing you out. Avoid the news, avoid social media, anything that could be disturbing all of a sudden. And you can watch some light, pleasant movie or shows, or read a book, take a hot shower, relax, and do some deep breathing, relaxation, meditation exercises. Taking a deep breath, deep breathing is easy to say, but most people do not know what is deep breathing exercise. So as you take a deep breath, count slowly up to 5. Hold that breath for 5 counts, and then exhale gradually as you count 5. The number of the 5 can be increased gradually depending on your lung capacity. And you can do it up to 5 counts or 10 counts in one row, long and deep breaths, not shallow and fast breaths. That will help you relax, bring the anxiety down, bring the panic down, and get a very nice sleep. Practice this breathing exercise 3 times a day, 1 in the morning, 1 in the afternoon, 1 at night. Master the technique and kick it in when you are more anxious. This is very helpful, practical way of bringing the anxiety down and taking charge. And distraction sometimes is very helpful. Get up, don't keep thinking. I'm not talking about at night, of course, you are sleeping and trying to wind down your mind. But in daytime, if someone feels anxious, don't sit there worrying. Get up and break the cycle. Take a walk outside, some deep breaths, come back to it with a cool mind, and you can address the same thing very nicely. Social support is very important for women, everyone, to gather your social support with close family and friends and reach out and talk. The one kind of therapy, and this is the first one here, is CBT, cognitive behavioral therapy. Extremely helpful to know and practice. The way you think affects the way you feel emotions and affects the way you behave. So the thinking process is the key that leads to the emotions. So if you're thinking negative, let's take an example. For example, the COVID situation. You're thinking negative, thinking, oh my gosh, it's bad. I may get it. My family may get it. We may all die. The world is, we have no hope for it's a hopeless situation right now for all of us. Your emotions, what are you going to feel after thinking all of that? Depressed, anxious, hopeless, helpless? You're not going to feel good. You'll have sleeping problems as well, maybe having too much anxiety leading to panic attacks. So, and the behavior could be withdrawn. You feel more guilty about not doing things because you're tired and you're not doing things what need to be done. It's really important to recognize this thinking pattern leading to the emotions, thinking, feeling connection, and to recognize it early on time and reverse it and replace it, questioning yourself with neutral or positive thoughts. Think about, how can I think about this whole same situation differently? And then you come to, well, instead of thinking like this, I can think differently. I can think, I can take care of myself. I'll take precautions. My family is going to be okay. If that happens, I'll be able to manage. It's going to be fine. So you reassure yourself, you think negative and positive. It's not a falsely positive, it's keeping it real and understanding that you can take care of it. You're not helpless, you can take charge. And consequently, you are reversing your emotion to feeling okay and normal and empowered. And this is really important to understand this concept and read in detail. There's a lot on CBT on the internet. There is a book called Feeling Good by David Burns. I recommend reading. And it's nice to take it in. It's nice to understand the concept and keep applying all day. And change the habit of your mind from thinking negatively to more positive. And you come out feeling positive, empowered, feel like you can deal with anything and it's not going to be overwhelming you. So in short, you take charge and you don't feel helpless and you say, I can do it. I don't have to fear anything. So with that, I will end my presentation, but love to have discussions and questions.
Thank you very much for that very insightful presentation, Dr. Mathur. We will move on to a few questions. So I'm going to ask Rajni. Rajni, thank you for monitoring our chat box for today's sessions. Can I ask that you please read, I believe we do have a question in the inbox, and then you did have a question yourself. If you could read those aloud, please.
Sure. Thank you, Dr. Mathur, again. And I have one important question here again. I think it will represent all the women here because it's a very common question and very important one too. How do you know when it is time to seek help, a doctor or a therapist? Because all the things that you've mentioned are very common and we go through on a day-to-day basis. So how do we know when we need to seek a doctor?
It's a very good question. And we all have these feelings, the depression, the anxiety, the feeling sad and irritable and angry, depending on the day, depending on what's happening throughout the day. When does it become a dysfunction? That's the most important question. So is it interfering with your ability to do things that are usual for you? Is it, interfering with your ability to sleep? Is it interfering with your ability to concentrate and do your work, whether it's at home or at, a job, or if you're a student, to be concentrating and finishing your studies? So the word dysfunction is where it becomes a disorder. And if in doubt, it's really helpful to definitely start psychotherapy so that you can talk to someone, get evaluated, talk to a professional who can help you through. And if needed, if it's severe enough, to be seeking medication evaluation to see if that can help you. And usually meds and therapy is what we recommend together for moderate to severe forms of anxiety and depression, to take care of it early on and not let it go on too far, too bad. But dysfunction is the key word, is you would know what was your usual. And so I typically ask when people come to see me, whatever is happening with them with the symptoms, is when is the last time you were feeling okay? And that's when they can track when things started becoming downhill and when it became worse and worse. So that's a good gauge, I guess, the word dysfunction, and not being able to do or think like usual, like your normal self.
Okay, that's great. Thank you so much. And would this apply to for kids too? Like in case, would it be any different for kids or?
It's pretty similar.
Okay.
Kids have the same issues.
Mm-hmm.
And it's important as mothers or parents to recognize that early on. And if they are not, being happy or able to study well or concentrate or enjoy playing with others or don't want to socially interact, and it's, away from their usual, then it's important to gauge, is like to talk to them. How are you doing? What's happening? It's important to be engaged in their lives and giving them a platform to talk it through, and being an open parent to say, okay, tell me, how was your day? What's going on? How are your friends? Are you having a good time there? Are you enjoying your studies? Are you enjoying playing? And you will pick up something that the kid will say, something's not right. Whether it's studies, they're struggling with that. It could be just because they don't like the subject. It could be because they're depressed or anxious, or they have ADHD that's not been diagnosed yet. So it's like multifactorial, but it's important as a parent to talk every day to your kids and have a relationship there that is open for them to open up to you, to tell you, because otherwise, if you are judgmental, they're not going to open up and they may suffer themselves alone.
Yeah, I know this is for women, but that question was for kids, and I thought of asking because half of the stress comes from, taking care of day-to-day things. So, and you mentioned about breathing exercise. Would you mind showing it to our viewers just for a minute or two? That way, because it's very simple to do, and if that can help, us, then it would be awesome. Thank you.
So I'll describe it and I'll use my hand. I don't know if you're able to see my hand go like this. So I'm just gonna change my screen. So if this represents a deep breath, let's visualize this. So this is the lateral side of someone. So when we are anxious and have panic attacks, this is how the breathing goes: fast and shallow, very fast. And the person may feel dizzy and, they need to be given a paper bag to breathe in so the carbon dioxide they're exhaling will stimulate the respiratory, center and have them breathe better. So this is how it's going. What we want to do is like long and deep. So this is the lateral side of someone. We're seeing their lungs. So it's like the breaths that a person takes when the doctor says, put the stethoscope on their lungs and say, take a deep breath. So let's understand what that is. So as I'm taking a deep breath, it's hard to demonstrate as I'm doing it, but I'm going to demonstrate with my hand what is a deep breath, and I'll describe. So as you are starting to take a deep breath, you just count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Hold 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And exhale 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 counts are really less. So if I was doing it, this is how it would look like is one such deep breath. If you can count more than 5, you can do 6 or 7 or 8, that's good. And gradually your lung capacity is going to increase. So it may be 5 or 6 or 7 or 8 counts. As you inhale, hold that breath, and then for those counts, and exhale, counting 1 to 5. And this is one breath, do 5 such breaths, one after the other, or 10. And you would see your anxiety and panic come down, and you feel relaxed. You get in more oxygen to your brain and lungs. So it's really good. You actually can think clearer now. So in anxiety and panic, we can't even think. We are just, in fact, some people feel dizzy and they can fall. I mean, it's really bad. So we have to recognize and fix this right away, right there and then.
Thank you so much. And Aparna, do we have time? There are a couple more questions.
I think we can take a question, and then Dr. Mothra will return back at the end after Dr. Tamarisa's presentation, and then we can continue on with those questions. Yep, I do see that the questions are picking up now, so this is good. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
There was one more question. Rajniji, we can go ahead and proceed with that. Did you have that?
Okay, so actually there are 2 questions and I can combine them. Is going to counseling a good idea? Is it reliable? If so, do we need a referral from the primary care doctor? What's the process?
Let me answer that. Is there any other question after that? I mean, this is one question, right?
Yeah, actually, there are 2 people asking these 2 questions. One is going to counseling a good idea? Is it reliable? And the second question was, do we need a referral from the doctor?
No, good question. So it is a good idea. When in doubt, always, because you're going to a therapist who is licensed to practice. You're not going to someone who's claiming that I do therapy and I'm a therapist. So if you go through your usual insurance, you'll find a list of therapists, and they could be different qualifications. It's fine as long as they're doing psychotherapy, talk therapy, that's fine. It's very good idea. And it's usually once a week, and you talk about your stuff, you talk about what's going on, the problems, and then they will come up with a solution and hear you and all. Also, I think the last part of it, I highly encourage to have a problem solving, session. Last 15 minutes of the session is don't just talk about problems, but also ask, okay, what can I do about it? I have panic attacks, I have anxiety. Can you teach me, just like today, deep breathing exercises, or what techniques can I do to bring my anxiety down? So it's really important to ask questions, is what can I do to bring the stress down? What can I do? What do you suggest? To ask more proactive questions. The other question is, do you need a referral from your PCP? Yes and no, depending on the kind of insurance. So if you have an HMO, then you need a referral from your primary care doctor, talk to them, no worries. I think most of them are pretty open to referring because they want people to take care of themselves. Because when someone's not doing well mentally, then physically they can have problems, not just the panic symptoms I described, but also gastritis and GI diseases like IBS, and there are many others. So, and pseudoneurological symptoms as well. So yeah, it's important to start therapy early on and take care of the problem when it's mild. And if you have a PPO, you could just yourself make an appointment with a therapist and start seeing a therapist. So you don't need a referral. It's totally upon the kind of insurance you have. And when in doubt, call your insurance and ask them, how do I go about doing it? And they can give you a list of therapists and psychiatrists that they cover, and you can go through zip codes or however you want. And I think that's great. You just get started there. And I just wanted to add that nowadays, so I've been doing telemedicine for the past 2 years, and that is a huge success, and it's a very good resource to have. So ask someone, because most of the people are saturated, a lot of people needing help with depression and anxiety, and it's really hard to get appointments with a therapist or a psychiatrist. Therefore, it's like you can, like in the same state, you could be seeing any of them through telemedicine. So it'll be nice to get a list from insurances who does telemedicine, so then you can expand your options and be able to see someone early on. Like I'm doing telemedicine only all day, and it's really nice to help people all throughout California, which I was not able to before because I could only see people who would walk in my office. Now it is really nice to help people who don't have a car, students in their dorms, anyone and everyone who has transportation issues, or it's just too convenient.
Actually, I know we are running out of time, but you are doing a great job in answering people's questions. And there's one important question, if you could answer. A few times I heard counseling is put on paper as depression, and that affects a person's insurance approval and benefits. Can you please answer?
It can sometimes, depending on, and you have no control on what the therapist or psychiatrist writes as a diagnosis. Hopefully, they're not doing like just depression just because someone's feeling depressed. It could be an adjustment disorder. It could be a mild depression. Depression has many mild, moderate, or severe varieties. People are encouraged to get help if they are suffering. So that's really important, not to worry too much and what's going to happen with, especially I think people worry about their life insurance, but most other things, it's not affecting their career. So it's important to know when you see a professional, you're just like any other medical records, it's confidential. It's not going anywhere without your written permission. So when people ask me, if they are doctors or, at whatever they're doing in their profession, including professors and pilots and whatnot, they're like, is this going to go somewhere? I say, unless you sign a release, it's not going to go anywhere, even the armed forces. So the insurance will have information on your diagnosis, what is coded, but not to worry. It's a very open thing now. Like we need people to get help. So everyone's promoting to not hold yourself back. If you are suffering, go get it. Hopefully it will not have any implication. The information is not automatically going to go anywhere.
Okay. Thank you so much. And if you have any more questions, Aparna will share them with you later. And thanks again. Over to you, Aparna.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Rajni. And thank you, Dr. Mathur, truly for a wonderful start to our discussion on wellness. As I mentioned, she will return at the end for our second question and answer session in case of any further questions for her. I did have one myself, but I'm reserving that till the end. We're going to now move on to the portion on physical wellness. We have with us Dr. Nina Tamirisa, Assistant Professor in the Division of Breast Surgical Oncology at the MD Anderson Cancer Center in Houston, Texas. MD Anderson, a world-renowned cancer institute, ranks #1 in the US and globally, serving patients from around the world in the fight to end cancer. Dr. Tamirisa is a native of Houston. She completed her medical school and surgical residencies in Texas, followed by a fellowship in breast surgical oncology at Duke University Medical Center. She is passionate about women's health and the importance of work-life balance in the maintenance of overall health. She's a physician, a teacher, a mom, and is ever ready to be of service to her community. Please join me in welcoming Dr. Tamirisa, who will start with the presentation, followed by our second question and answer session. Thank you.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for that introduction, and then thank you for the opportunity to present today. Full disclosure, my husband is in India, so I'm here alone with my kid. So if he comes running in, I apologize, but we'll go ahead and get started. I have him occupied for now. Okay, I will share my screen. And are you able to see my screen?
Yes, Dr. Tamirisa, we can see the screen.
Okay. Oh, sorry, one second. Okay, so Dr. Mothra, that was a wonderful presentation, and I think we have a little bit of an overlap, so I'll gloss over the things in my presentation that were similar to what you have already discussed, but I was given the topic of health and wellness, so I'm going to just dive right in. So just to start, I think most women can kind of relate to this feeling like you're running on an empty gas tank and asking yourself, how much further can I really go? What am I able to do? How am I able to push myself to make sure that I'm taking care of my family, myself, and everything external to that as well. So there are often times when we feel like this. You're just trying to make everything work, and at the end of the day, you survive the day, and that's what counts. But really, those who don't make time to take care of themselves, sooner or later will have to make time for illness. So it's really critically important to take care of yourself. We all know that model in the airplane when they say put your oxygen mask on first and then provide it to even your child, because when your tank is full, you can provide for others much better than when you're running on empty. So there's good news. There are a lot of guidelines which help direct us as to what it is we need to be doing. There's cervical cancer screening that should start at age 21 based on your risk factors, and discuss that with your OBGYN. So make sure that you're following with a regular primary physician or OBGYN for these things. Breast cancer screening. So I am a breast surgeon. This is my plug for making sure you get your annual mammograms. I will say that with the COVID pandemic, women were having a delay to mammograms because centers were closed. And we have noticed, the data is not, we don't have enough long-term follow-up just because we're coming out of this now, but we are seeing more advanced disease than we were prior to the pandemic. And a lot of that is attributed to just not being able to get care or get your mammogram. So now that things are opening up, if you missed your mammogram, please get it. Colon cancer screening generally starts at age 50. I think it's actually 45 now, but that's another one that's very important. So there are ways to make sure that we are keeping ourselves on track, and it's really important to maintain this as well. I will talk about breast cancer because that's my field. Female breast cancer has surpassed lung cancer as the most commonly diagnosed cancer in the world, which is just happened about a year and a half ago, as per the statistics across the world. So the incidence, 24.5%, 9.2 million cases, and then 4 million deaths from that. So what that translates to is if you're sitting in a room of 8 women, 1 in 8 women who live to be 70, which is the vast majority of people, will develop breast cancer in her lifetime. That's really significant. That's a big number. So like I said, it's really critical to make sure that you're taking care of yourself and getting your appropriate screening. The other good news is that there are risk factors for breast cancer. Some of them we can't control, your age, your genetics. Those are things we have no control over. But the things we do have control over are our weight, alcohol consumption, and physical activity. And these are what we call modifiable risk factors. So these are things that we can do ourselves to help reduce our risk of developing breast cancer. And this also applies to other cancer types as well. So what does that mean? It means treat yourself. And what does it boil down to? Everyone knows. We all know what's good for us. We need to have a good diet, make sure we get good sleep, and make sure we exercise. One fun fact, physically active women are 25% less likely to develop breast cancer than those who are inactive. And I think especially with the COVID pandemic, a lot of people working from home, we're all attached to our screens. There's a lot of sitting that ends up happening, and that can be detrimental. So we'll start with diet. The ancient quote of let food be your medicine and medicine be your food. I think a lot of the medicines we provide today and our in kind of the medical world is taking care of people who've already kind of developed a disease. But there are certain ways to potentially prevent disease, or at least do our best to try and do that. So food is really, really important. Just a quick summary of how it's related to breast cancer risk. Over the BMI of 25, it increases breast cancer risk to 58%. A case control study of 2,000 women found that women who gain weight, particularly after age 50, significantly increase their risk of breast cancer. And then conversely, if you lose weight, you may actually decrease your risk of breast cancer. So it's not an easy thing to do. Losing weight is very, very difficult. But I hope today that I can give you some tools that will help at least streamline that for anyone who's kind of looking to lose weight or at least maintain the weight that they've lost or maintain their weight. So how does diet impact cancer risk? So just a kind of a brief summary. So there's inflammation. It happens in the body with intake of food. There's excess insulin that can also be produced as we eat. Our body makes insulin to help kind of metabolize that food. So when we eat a lot, we produce excess insulin. And then also the fat cells in the body metabolize the substances to create estrogen. So inflammation, excess insulin, excess estrogen are all factors that cause cells to divide more. And rapid division can result in damage of the DNA, which then subsequently results in cancer. So this is why food is sort of being looked at actually more now as to how we can prevent disease. So the goal is for sustained weight loss. And ultimately what it really boils down to is it's a numbers game. You just have to calculate calories in, calories burned. So in general, caloric intake for women from 31 to 59, it's about 1,800 calories per day. Women over the age of 60, it's 1,600 calories per day. Now, this varies based on how active you are. And people who are very, very physically active, you may have to take in more calories because you'll be burning more than the average woman. But this is just a general idea here. So there's a couple ways of doing this. Keeping track of what you eat. So looking at caloric density, which means measuring what you eat, logging your meals. And then the other thing that's become very popular recently is this term of intermittent fasting. So that is a technique to decrease calories by introducing periods of fasting throughout the day. And then that is thought to help reduce blood sugar and insulin levels, and that's how it results in fat loss. So I'm going to be talking about these two general things, restricting your calories, but kind of eating your 3 meals a day, sort of standard, versus intermittent fasting. So if we're going to say that we are going to continue to kind of eat how we eat during the day, breakfast, lunch, and dinner, then it's very, very important to keep track of what you're eating. And this concept of caloric density really can help you understand what that means. So food that is high in caloric density has a large number of calories, but is a small weight of food. Food that's low in calorie density has much fewer calories in the same weight of food. So what that means is you can consume a larger portion of low calorie dense food than a high calorie dense food for the same number of calories. So what does this look like? This is a picture of the stomach. There's oil, there's cheese, there's meat, there's potatoes, beans, and rice, sort of the starchy things, and then fruits and vegetables. Well, you can see that fruits and vegetables don't have very many calories for what you take, and you can get full on essentially less calories. Whereas things like cheese, meat, they tend to have a higher caloric density. So you eat a little and you end up meeting your calorie intake. So that's kind of what calorie density translates to. So the American Cancer Institute and the World Cancer Research Fund recommend lowering average calorie density to 567 calories per pound. That's kind of a confusing statement, but essentially what it means is that the average human consumes about 3 to 5 pounds of food per day. And so with each meal, if you think about you're eating 3 meals a day, about 500 calories per meal, that's 1,500 calories. So give or take a few. But really what this statement means is there has to be a way of keeping track of what we're eating. So we have to have something measurable. So one thing is actually measuring your food. So knowing how much is a cup, how much is an ounce. There are definitely tools out there that help with this. This is on Amazon, and for anyone who's interested, I have no stock in anything here that I'm presenting, but these are just things that I found in ways when I was trying to sort of restrict my calorie intake. So I've searched these things, and I'm just sharing with you today what I know about what's out there. But measuring cups or things to help you to know exactly how much food you're taking in. Apps. So apps are really great. There are a lot of really good apps out there for tracking what you eat. So keeping a food log. So in the morning, I had coffee, cereal, log the amount of milk, and then it'll automatically tell you, okay, if you had a cup of milk, this is how many calories. So that really helps to say, oh, okay, I know this is actually how much I took in, rather than pouring the milk in the cereal bowl and not knowing how much milk you really eat. There's no way of measuring that. So measuring it and then taking that to the app to say, okay, this is exactly what I did, and that calculates your calories for you. This is a picture of women from the town of Okinawa in Japan, and they have a concept called Hara Hachibu, which I think is really, really phenomenal. This is one of the, what they call the blue zones in the world, where people live to be 100 or over on average. And one of the things they really, the principles they live by is to eat until you're 80% full. So don't eat until you're completely stuffed and you feel like you need to take a nap. Eat slowly, take your time. And when you realize you're like, I could maybe eat a little more, but I think I'm pretty much there, they stop. And that's one sort of just, you know, we may not have all these tools on hand with us all the time, or it may get difficult to log your meals. This is a real simple thing to do. Listen to your body, listen to the signs that it's giving you, and follow that. So this is kind of just a picture of portion control. The plant-based diet is, I think, kind of, this came from the MD Anderson website, but one of the, and it doesn't mean you can't eat meat, but it is one of the most healthy diets out there in terms of creating a balanced meal that meets all the things that I kind of just discussed. And like I said, this doesn't mean you can't eat meat. It can be a part of the diet if you desire, but it's sort of trying to help distinguish the processed foods from the foods that will help in that caloric density that I was talking about. So this plate, it should be a small plate, not a huge plate. But if you look at your portions, when you lay out your food on the plate, you can kind of see, okay, I'm going to fill 1/4 with a protein. Then I'm going to fill 1/4 with starches, so a little bit of rice. And then the rest of that plate should be filled with vegetables. That's generally how it looks. The Indian diet I can speak of because this is pretty much what we eat every day, but this is kind of how we lay out our food when we're eating. So fiber and carbs. The recommendation is for women to consume 21 to 25 grams of fiber daily. So what does that mean? Because I'm not going to be looking and trying to count my fiber intake. I don't know that we all have time for that in a day. But it means eating fruits and vegetables. So 2 pieces of fruit a day, and then 1 or more cups of vegetables with lunch and with dinner. So if you can kind of plan out your day and say, okay, I got this fruit today, maybe an apple and a banana, 1 in the morning, 1 in the evening, and then I'm going to make sure I get my vegetables with lunch and dinner. Now, caveat here is that fruits are good, but those also have a lot of carbs and sugars. So we have to limit that too. Mangoes are great, but you can't be eating mangoes all day. So we have to limit this because this also contributes to the carbohydrate intake, which can then increase those insulin levels and actually not help us achieve that sort of weight loss goal, even though we think, hey, I'm eating my fruits and vegetables every day. It doesn't matter what types of fruits you eat. Generally speaking, apples and pears are the best. Those are the best ones to eat. Other ones can be a little bit inflammatory. And of course, these are not bad for you, but apples and pears are a very, very good way to go. And then vegetables, there's the whole list of vegetables written here. Bitter melon in specific has been shown to, in some studies, to actually help with diabetes or blood glucose management. And then another thing is eating chia seeds or ground flax daily, 1 to 2 tablespoons daily. You can put that in yogurt, or flax can actually go in any of the, like if you're making a soup, or for Indian diets like a rasam or something like that, you can actually put flax in that, and it doesn't change the taste of it. And then protein and fat. So protein sources, good sources of protein, tofu, lentils, beans, dairy. Dairy, there is a lot of literature out there about how that can be pro-inflammatory, but It is also a good source of protein intake. So it's not necessarily a bad thing. It's just overdoing the dairy may not be a good thing to do. And nuts and seeds. So nuts are good, but nuts are also high in fat. So we have to be careful. Again, that goes back to actually measuring how much you're eating. Healthy fats are like chia seeds, flax seeds, walnuts, olive oil, avocados, things like that. So in terms of trying to plan out, because what happens is we have, or at least I know that I have lofty goals of saying, okay, this is what I want to be really healthy. And then I come home, I'm exhausted, there's a bag of Doritos, that's what I'm going to go for. But if I have the right things at home that I can reach for when I'm hungry, that I actually like to eat and taste good, that increases my chances of actually being able to help with this, managing my calories throughout the day. So nuts and seeds, those are good things to get. Just having some almonds or cashews, again, we have to measure those things when we eat them, but those are good things to have at home. Pumpkin seeds, again, these things are not necessarily very filling, but if you're kind of wanting just to snack or crunch on something, they're good to have. Beans, lentils, kidney beans, for dinners, having that at home in cans that help to make a quick meal. The roots, so potatoes, carrots, and then whole grains, rice, and then flour, dairy, again, cheese, yogurt, herbs and spices. So these are the things that we can put on our food to help it taste good without having to put too much effort into what we're making. And then healthy fats, coconut milk, avocado, coconut oil, and then protein sources. So tofu, dairy, nuts, and seeds. Green tea is another good thing to kind of have at home, and I'll talk about that in a second. So the next side of this is intermittent fasting. So that the first part, half of this was talking about, look, I'm going to need to eat throughout the day. I do want to maintain a certain weight. So how do I do that? Well, that is where you really do have to measure how much you're eating and check and log your calories. The other part of this is intermittent fasting. So intermittent fasting is essentially a 16-hour to 8-hour ratio. This is lots of described things out there, but this is the one that seems to be most popular and one that's easy to do. And so essentially what it is that you have an 8-hour period in the day where you can eat. So some people choose, let's say, I don't really eat breakfast, so I'm going to start with lunch. So for my first meal is at 12, my last meal has to be at 8, and no food before or after that. So if I wake up at 6, for example, this schedule here, if I wake up at 6, from 6 to 12, water, black coffee, tea, those are things that can kind of fill your stomach until you get to the lunch part, and then you can have a meal. And so you can actually eat what you want during periods of non-fasting. You don't have to be counting your calories, because automatically you're restricting how much you're eating, because you're not eating throughout the day, you're just eating at a prescribed time. There's not really an emphasis on choosing healthy foods, but I would caution and say that making healthy food choices will help reduce calorie intake and promote weight loss. So trying to stay away from highly processed foods, sugars, and by sugars, I mean, eating, we can't from 12 to 8 say, well, I can have 3 pieces of cake and everything is going to be fine. It won't work like that. But so trying to make healthy food choices, but you don't necessarily have to do all of that calorie counting that comes with the other method of trying to lose weight. So really what it is what doesn't work best for you? If you look at this and you say, I'm able to do that, I can skip breakfast, and so maybe I should try this, then it may be something that works for you. If you know that you can't, then try the calorie restriction. Studies have shown in studies looking from 12 weeks to 12 months of patients who have done intermittent fasting versus caloric restriction, there's no difference in weight loss when comparing intermittent fasting to a calorie restricted diet. So really, I want to make sure you know that just do what works for you, because that's going to be the thing that's sustainable. Stay hydrated, drink lots of water. That always helps, because it's no calories. And this is a water bottle that I found on Amazon. I'm horrible at drinking water. I don't know why, but I'm very bad at it. And so this really helped because it's small, it fits in my car on the seat, and it times me. So, if I haven't had all the water I need by 11 a.m., I'm like, oh, Nina, just get there, and then easy to drink and really convenient to take around. Green tea is very good. It has a lot of antioxidant properties. So that's a good one to have on hand, like I'd mentioned before. So for intermittent fasting, is the wait worth the wait? It's been shown to result in decreases in blood pressure, resting heart rate, cholesterol, triglycerides, glucose, insulin. But if you're not able to maintain it, those improvements dissipate with several weeks of just going back to having a normal diet. So the one thing that's very important to mention, and it's not for everyone, so this comes with even the calorie restricted part of all of this, is that if you have other medical conditions, diabetes especially, it's always important to talk to your physician about what your diet plan or what you're thinking of, because those sugar highs and lows are really important to monitor. So be very careful of that before just jumping into a diet plan. But, you know, with intermittent fasting, you can feel weak, hungry, dehydrated, have headaches. Interestingly enough, actually, the studies showed that the people who did intermittent fasting had better control of their hunger. And I think it's just because ultimately your body just gets used to a certain rhythm. But like I mentioned, discussion with a nutritionist, dietitian is recommended before starting intermittent fasting to ensure that your nutritional needs are being met. So definitely your provider, whoever that may be. It's not recommended for pregnant women, lactating women, and frail adults, or people who have other significant medical conditions. And then just like I said, patients with diabetes who are trying an intermittent fasting diet, you definitely have to discuss the benefits with the doctor before kind of starting into something like that. And practice mindful eating. So not just what it is you're eating or the time of the day or how much we're counting, but a lot of times, I'm sure a lot of people can relate. We eat on the run. I have to go quickly, get out the door, so I'm just going to grab what I can and eat. But you know, instead, make it a point to really focus on your meal and pay attention to those feelings of hunger and fullness. I think especially, you know, the theme that keeps coming up as we talk about women is that we take care of the family. We are the nurturing ones. And so pay attention to yourself. Pay attention to what your body is telling you. Eating more slowly can promote weight loss because you know when you're full faster. So you don't keep eating just to kind of get through the meal. And then another useful habit to control is, or to control your food intake, is to avoid eating in front of the television or while surfing the web. And this is something that's very interesting because when my son was born and I was trying to figure out, you know, how to feed him, how is he going to sit, I would put the screen there and then just try and feed him. And then I saw like his eyes would glaze over and I could just get the food in his mouth and then we would head out. And I still do it sometimes when I really need him to eat. But I saw that firsthand, that, you know, I may not know it so much when I'm doing it, if I'm eating and watching TV, but I saw it in him. So this is why they recommend not doing that. Sleep, Dr. Mothra talked a lot about this in her talk. And so I'm just going to kind of quickly go over these things. But, you know, do you take time to unwind at night? Do you have a routine? Try to avoid electronics before sleeping, like Dr. Mothra mentioned. Caffeinating throughout the day may be a sign that your sleep is not very good. And then, you know, things like checking the temperature of the room. It's good to have a cold room, and be consistent about your sleep schedule. So say, I'm going to sleep at this time. This is the time I go to sleep. You snack before bed. It's not a great idea to do that. Making sure your bedroom is dark. So creating the right environment so that you can get into a nice kind of sleep routine and have a good night's rest is really important. These small steps can help relieve stress, improve your mood, give you energy, and lower your risk of chronic disease, including dementia and depression. So really, sleep is very, very critical. And then physical activity. So how much physical activity do we really need? Now, I don't know how many of you can relate, but, you know, when I decide that I'm going to, or I tell patients, I always tell them, I say, you know, once you decide that you're going to start living a healthy diet, the New Year's resolutions, I'm going to run a mile every day, this is what I'm going to do. Well, the first thing is be very realistic in the goals. I spent a lot of time talking about diet because that is the one thing that you always have as your backup. Your physical activity may not be consistent. You may not be able to do the same thing all the time every day. And oftentimes what happens is that you can maintain it for a week, and then once it stops, it's hard to just get that started. So diet is about 80% of this whole weight loss journey. But physical activity is really, really important. And so what's recommended by the American Heart Association is 150 minutes of moderate activity. And then what moderate intensity means is your heart will beat faster, you breathe a little harder, and you can't talk very normally, but you'll still be able to talk. So that's what moderate intensity is, or 75 minutes of vigorous activity per week. Vigorous intensity is you get warm, you sweat, you can't really talk throughout the exercise without getting out of breath. So that's the difference between the two. If you're wondering, am I doing enough? That's what those two should feel like. So either 150 minutes of moderate activity per week and 75 minutes of vigorous activity per week. For the maximum benefits, include both in your routine, along with muscle strengthening and stretching exercises. So how do we break this down? Don't worry if you cannot reach 150 minutes per week just yet. We all have to start somewhere. Doing something is better than doing nothing. If you've been sedentary for years, today you can start to make the change. And like I mentioned, set a reachable goal. And then you can work up towards the recommended amount of exercise. Don't let all or nothing thinking keep you from doing what you can do every day. So if you can't reach that, I needed to walk 30 minutes today, that's okay. Walk 10 minutes. Still, something is better than nothing. Get moving, improve the best way is walking. It's free, it's easy, you can do it anywhere, you can even do it in place. So walking is just fine. That's a great way to exercise. We think sometimes that, hey, okay, I'm going to get these machines for strengthening and muscle building. I need to have all these things on us. No, we don't. You don't need to go and buy these expensive things out there. There's a lot of things for resistance training that I'll talk about and can help you sort of do that still muscle building without requiring all these bulky machines. So here's a sample plan. I say, okay, I'm going to wake up 10 minutes. I'm going to walk in the morning. Maybe after that, 5 minutes, just do a quick run. In the evening, 15 minutes of walking, and then 5 minutes of weight-bearing exercise. So weight-bearing exercise, these are some of the things that also I found that kind of help with that. This dice thing here is essentially you roll it, and then it gives you a exercise to do. And it's a fun thing to do with the family. You kind of roll the dice, and then everyone has to do what the dice says. So fun, doable, it's small, storable. You don't have to go out and buy big, expensive things. These are resistance bands here, the black, yellow, red ones there. They come in a little small pouch. And in that packet, they give you recommended exercises to do. Again, just be aware that, make sure that you are talking to your physician about what your capacity is, because you don't want to overdo it or hurt yourself. But these are simple ways to kind of help build muscle. And then jump rope. So if you can't walk, you can't run, have a jump rope at home. It's, again, small, storable, and jump roping in place is, it's excellent cardiac workout. So that's all I have for you today. Just to kind of recap, I am very passionate about women's health. I absolutely love my job and taking care of women with breast cancer. I think that, I talked about how there are, risk of lack of physical activity or increased BMI, increase your risk of developing cancer. But, we also want, in our setting on the provider side, when we see patients who unfortunately have a diagnosis of cancer, it's important at that point what their health status is. So if they have a lot of cardiac conditions, if they have uncontrolled diabetes, we may not be able to necessarily offer certain treatments because of the risk of not being able to tolerate that. So when we see patients, we do risk stratify them. And so it's always best when people are in their optimal health, because then we can offer all the treatments and get them past their cancer and continuing to live a healthy life. So maintaining that a healthy life is really important. And I hope that I've given you some good tools to be able to do that today. Thank you all for the opportunity to present.
Thank you very much, Dr. Tamirisa. I hope you all have gained insights on the investment that we truly must take in ourselves to maintain both a strong physical and mental core. So we are now going to move on to our final question and answer session today with Drs. Tamirisa and Mathur, and I am also available to weigh in on any general medical questions. And so I would now ask Rajni to please read aloud any questions from the chat box.
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Tamirisa. Again, very informative sessions, and there are a lot of questions. Hope we'll have time to take them all. One of the questions is that there are many women suffering with fibroid problem these days. Is there any particular reason that is triggering it? Is it stress or diet?
I can answer that question. It's not necessarily related to stress or diet. It is just something that happens. It's considered a benign condition. Some are prone. There is some idea out there that it can travel in families. It may also be related to your ethnic background. We do see a higher prevalence in certain people. So not necessarily related to stress and diet. I will say one thing, with fibroids comes heavy bleeding, and stress can contribute to sort of altering the menstrual cycle. So that's definitely there, but not a direct link. It's not something that you can necessarily control.
Okay, thank you. And
can I add something to that?
This is, I guess, an interactive session. Is this Chari? Chari, who's a retired OB-GYN, did you have one thing that you wanted to say? You surely can say that real quick.
It is a hypertrophic, it's an enlargement of the uterine musculature, which is estrogen dependent also. Now we are drinking a lot of bottled water, eating a lot of foods that are developed artificially, and manures and all that. So there is so much of estrogens that people are consuming. And that may be one of the causes of fibroids also. So maybe some dietary control, weight loss. Actually, when you are obese also, body makes more estrogen. So these all compound the problems.
Correct. They will compound the problems. Definitely consumption of plastic products does not help the situation.
Okay, that's great. Thank you so much. Do you recommend any supplements like iron or calcium for women to be prepared for menopause?
We generally recommend that women should take a multivitamin daily. Calcium has kind of been sort of thrown up and down, because we talk about calcium contributing to kidney stones and maybe contributing to the furthering of any cardiovascular disease. So we have to take the calcium on a case-by-case basis, but generally, yes, bone density does diminish as we age and with postmenopause. So, speak to your doctor definitely about that calcium. And for those women with fibroids and heavy bleeding, iron, we have to look into their iron levels. So iron is good for that set of patients, but treatment of iron deficiency is also case-by-case sort of thing, not necessarily linked to menopause.
Vitamin D may be important source for people. Vitamin D becomes very critical also.
So multivitamin and vitamin D to start with, and then we can check with the physicians to know more specific to that individual, right?
Correct. Yes, we do need to know more about the individual specifically.
Okay. And this is an interesting question also, that about intermittent fasting. How do we do it effectively? Because VG here says that she has tried it and it didn't work. Are there any tips to control sugar cravings also?
Yes, that's a great question. And like I said, the calorie restriction is equal to intermittent fasting. We have randomized control trial data that shows that either works. So there's no benefit of one over the other. So if intermittent fasting doesn't work, trying a calorie restricted way or approach is just as good. Now, that being said, intermittent fasting, so tips on how to do it, because after my son was born, I was trying to lose weight, and I will tell you, based on my experience and what I read from trying to see what really worked, drinking water really helps. So priming the body. Water is 0 calories and it fills your stomach. So if you say, okay, well, I'm going to start at 12, and I think the 11 to 7 or 12 to 8 block is probably the best one, only because you still feel like you're getting the meals at the standard times, but you're kind of skipping breakfast. So water, green tea, and black coffee. Drink those in the morning. You can do that. And space it out. And then when you start your meals, 12 to 8, you can eat what you want. So maybe if you have sugar cravings, what you can do is say, okay, I'm going to eat my lunch, I'm going to eat dinner. And then in the evening before 8, I'm going to have a little bit of ice cream. So you know it's coming. You know that you're going to get that day. So you can then tell yourself, okay, I know in the afternoon, I know I feel like eating this cookie right now, but I'm going to maybe wait until dinner to get ice cream. Now, again, theoretically with intermittent fasting, you can still eat the cookie, but it's best to try to stay away from processed food. So I think the ways to do it are increasing water intake and also not necessarily depriving yourself, but telling yourself, I will get this at the end of the day, and knowing that it's not going to be a bad way to do it.
Okay. Yeah, that's great. Thank you so much. And there's another question here. Do we take, I'm sorry, it's a repeated question. So let me pick another question here. About sleep pattern, is it okay to take melatonin supplement for sleep pattern? If so, what's the recommended dosage?
Okay, I can answer that. Melatonin has recently come in the press as sort of a negative. So again, it's a case-by-case basis. Milligrams are generally somewhere between 3 to 5 milligrams. But again, I would consult your primary care provider to see what would be the best route to take with regards to sleep. As Dr. Tamirisa and Dr. Mothra have mentioned, there are several other steps that you can take to improve the sleep before reaching for a medication. But if in the case it's necessary, again, case-by-case basis as far as the dosage and whether it's right for you.
Okay. There's another question here. If mom or family member has breast cancer, how early do you recommend mammograms?
So that's a good question. That does, if your mom has breast cancer or an immediate family has breast cancer, that does trigger genetic testing if you are diagnosed with cancer, but it does not necessarily change when you need to start your screening. So 45 or 40 is when you should start your annual screening mammogram, even if you have a family member who is diagnosed with breast cancer. However, if that family member ends up with a positive genetic test, then you are at risk of having that same gene. So then I advise you talk to your doctor about that for genetic counseling, and then that may prompt earlier screening for you, for that particular individual. But it's only really applies if earlier screening would only really apply if the person who is diagnosed with breast cancer has a genetic mutation that then you need to worry about.
Okay, thank you. And actually, I see Dr. Mathur is on now. I have a question for her. Someone was asking about the book that you have recommended during your session. Would you be able to give information on that, please?
Yes, the name of the book is Feeling Good, and it's by David Burns. He's a psychiatrist, and this has been around a really long time. It's one of the books for CBT, Cognitive Behavioral Therapy, and there are many such books. This one, if you're buying it, there is an audio version. Also, you can buy the whole book, which is a theory, as well as there are worksheets. So it is a kind of a good self-help understanding book and to apply. And there are many other books also. So whatever you feel comfortable, go ahead with that. And this therapy is very helpful. You can apply it yourself. A lot of therapists incorporate that in their therapy. So it's very commonly used, very effective. So I'd highly recommend to look into that.
Oh, thank you so much. And another very commonly asked question, but very important one too, and this is for Dr. Tamirisa. do we need to take any vitamins if we follow a balanced diet?
That's a really good question. I think that yes, following a balanced diet is important, in that what we have to include in there is kind of minimizing the processed foods as part of that balanced diet, because that's where we sort of lose that nutritional, the value to it. And then we need these vitamins. I think it's, even if you do have a balanced diet, it's always a good idea to take a multivitamin. It doesn't hurt. And, I think that even though we think we may be eating all the right things, some days are better than others. And so having something consistently help you meet that the other part of that nutritional goal is important.
Okay. And another question concerning ovarian health. Are there any screenings for ovarian cancer? Because she says that one goes under the radar since there isn't a screening available, and like we have mammo and pap.
Right, absolutely. Unfortunately, because ovarian cancer is not as common as, let's say, breast cancer, there is no recommended screening. However, if you are at high risk based on your family history, there are certain places where they will do high risk screening. So I can speak for MD Anderson, for example. If we know somebody may be genetically predisposed or they have a genetic mutation, then they will offer high risk ovarian cancer screening. It is unfortunate that there's no guideline for that, but because when it's diagnosed, oftentimes it's too late because it often has progressed by that point. But unfortunately, there's no consistent screening for ovarian cancer.
Okay. I think that's about it. And there are a few other questions, but I think you have answered before in addressing other questions. Actually, I have a question. You have shared quite important information through your slides. Would you mind sharing them with our viewers now or later?
No problem.
Oh, okay. All right, great. So if you're sharing it now, that's great. If you want to share it later, then all the viewers, whoever want to receive that information, can leave their email in their chat, and we will make sure it's transmitted to you later. I think that's about it. Aparna, over to you now.
Thank you, Rajni. Thank you so much. So basically, thank you all for attending today. It was a wonderful session. Thank you so much to our doctors who have provided invaluable information for us today. And we look forward to being able to provide future sessions such as these. So we would like you to take a moment and provide your feedback on today's session. There was a survey link that was placed in the chat box, and we would like you to go to that survey link and answer those questions for us. They're very valuable for us to be able to take back and further benefit our audience. And with this, I would like to thank VT Seva for giving me the opportunity to be part of this today. I again thank Drs. Mathur and Tamirisa for their time, for their information, just wonderful. And I thank all the volunteers and supporters of VT Seva and JET for their dedication and promotion of activities such as these for the wellness of our society. I will now hand it over to Lakshmi, who will introduce tomorrow's topics. Thank you all again.
Thank you, Aparna, and thank you, Dr. Tamirisa and Dr. Mathur. It was a wonderful presentation. I really enjoyed myself, and I do have some takeaways. And I'm glad you're sharing your slide deck too. I really liked the grocery shopping list. So that's quite helpful. And thank you everyone for joining today. It's been a wonderful session, and we would like to welcome you back for tomorrow's session, which is Financial Wellness by Dr. Mathu Nemani and Women at Workforce by Ms. Samantha Johnson. And they are going to give us insights. As you probably can see, the itinerary for tomorrow is going to be on our website. The link is already provided in the chat box. So basically it's financial selfie and gap analysis, college planning, retirement planning, tax planning, legacy planning, and for women at workforce, we have back to work readiness, work-life balance, support system at work, job trends, all of these. And I really request you all to please complete the survey, which will help us greatly. And you also can provide your email ID in the survey form that you're going to fill. And I really appreciate and thank each and every one of you for your time, especially our wonderful women who have been working in the background to bring this together for all of you. As always, it's wonderful to volunteer with VT Seva. We all have been with the organization for 10 plus years, and we would love to have you on board. For more information, vtsworld.org website. Thank you all. Have a wonderful evening.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Preethi.
Thank you very much for having me.